Hello, everybody. If you're here, thank you for joining early and welcome. If you are here already, fantastic. Say hello. Don't be afraid to pop some comments or some questions and some hellos into the comments. Makes it feel like we're talking to somebody rather than just talking to ourselves. And as much as I don't mind that, because I do this quite a lot, it might help Pat feel a bit more comfortable as well. But yeah, no, really excited for today. And if you are here, thank you for joining. I will give us like 90 seconds just to allow some people to join rather than just getting straight stuck into it. Yeah, Pat, no, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
very excited.
I know we've been meaning to do this for a little while, haven't we? That's been partly my fault. There's lots of people jumping on and life just flying by, right? Oh, Mick's here already. Hello, Mick. Can you see that, Pat? Can you see?
I can't actually see who's joining, but great. I was with Mick this morning, so it's great that Mick's tuned in.
Yeah, lovely. But can you see the comments?
I can't at the moment.
Okay, so on the right-hand side, there should be a side panel which says comments.
Okay, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Perfect. Thanks. The second person to say hello, I actually can't see the name of that. It comes up with LinkedIn user. So if you say your name, I can also say hello and give you a shout. But if you have any questions throughout this, guys, please don't be afraid to ask. Derek, hello, mate. Should be a really interesting chat. And yeah, I'm really excited. So look, it's been 90 seconds-ish, a bit longer than that. We'll get started. But yeah, really looking forward to getting going. I'm very happy and glad to have Pat on to talk about his sustainable high performance framework. I've known about this framework for a little while, and I think it's a really interesting and useful tool and way of looking at performance. And I'm excited to allow Pat to share this with everybody, and also share how not only we can use it as human beings, but how we can potentially use it as employees in the workplace and how we use it as leaders, etc., etc. Right. So yeah, I'm just excited to get going. I know this probably ties into to both of us and both of our kind of strengths and interests. So I feel like it would just be a really nice, easy conversation. And if I say, as I said earlier on, if you have any questions for Pat or myself, please jump in and make sure you add these because it will just add to the podcast. So I'm going to shut up shortly, Pat, I promise. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to throw the mic over to you and then get your introduction. Okay?
Sounds good, Rich.
Perfect. So, hello, everybody. I know most of you said hello so far. I know who I am. My name's Rich. I am a high-performance leadership trainer, coach, and the owner of a coaching company, as well as the founder of Employees Health, a workplace wellbeing company, which is kind of what's attached to the Wellbeing Chat and how this originally started. I talk to people and I help people improve their performance and their wellbeing, both inside and outside of work. If you want to know more about what I do, drop me a line. I don't need to kind of do a full sales pitch on this. More importantly, I'm here today with Pat, high performance coach as well, at Limitless. But rather than letting me butcher his introduction, I'm going to let Pat do it for himself. Over to you, mate.
Thank you, Rich. So my name is Pat Harrison. I'm Senior Executive Coach with Limitless, and I co-lead our UK and Europe business alongside Ian Ward. I also co-lead alongside Jack, another Limitless coach based in Asia. I co-lead our next generation, our worldwide next generation programs and retreats.
Nice. Thanks, mate. Okay. I know Ian's on the call. I know Mick's on the call. Both guys from Limitless, obviously Mick being the founder of it. Super great organization, who I did my qualification through too. So yeah, love those guys. So your journey is what I look at next. Obviously now a high performance coach. We're both similar ages. We're both pretty young in this space, right? And so I'd love to know why you are where you are and why you're doing this now and kind of what's brought you to this position.
Yeah, no, sure. Thanks, Rich. So rewinding Anyway, so I started my professional career back in Dubai. I worked with a big four company in the corporate world. And when I turned up on day one at work, I was incredibly driven, ambitious, and motivated. And I was really excited and keen to prove myself. And I sort of dived into it. But initially, my approach was completely unsustainable. I was working hard. I was doing an okay job, I believe, but I had huge fluctuations in energy, in performance. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't investing as much time in my relationships as I'd like to. I was working late into the evenings, working on the weekends. I was feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And then I sort of began to dive into the world of high performance and well-being, and began learning a few things I started applying in my life. And as I was applying these in my life, I started to see some really good benefits. I was much more energized. I was more motivated. And I found that my performance at work improved while not having to put in those late evening shifts or the weekend shifts. I had more time to enjoy the sport I enjoyed doing, more time with my relationships. And just generally, my life was improving in all areas, really. So then I became really sort of passionate about sharing this with people, and initially just informally with my teams at work. I was sort of sharing what I was learning. And then that sort of turned into a more formal role, I suppose, an internal role in the company I was in, part of the Wellbeing team, the Middle East Wellbeing team. I started delivering these sessions on well-being and high performance. I'm sure if we watch back now, that first session I delivered, I think it was on stress or sleep. I'm sure if we watched it back now, I'd be cringing. But it started there, and it started with sharing in these sessions, these online sessions. And then that turned into some in-person sessions to different teams in Dubai, and then more sort of bigger sessions to teams across the Middle East, to the different offices around the Middle East. And it seemed to be landing. People seemed to be getting value from it. And then I was starting to think, look, I enjoy my job. I was an accountant. I was enjoying my job, worked with some incredible people. But this, whatever this is, this sharing and supporting people around high performance and well-being, like, this is what I love. This is what lights me up. So I then started to explore how I can sort of share more around this, how I can support more people. And then through, funnily enough, meeting a guy called David Labouche at a triathlon in Salalah, Oman. Maybe a coincidence, but I don't know if I believe in coincidences. It essentially is one of the coaches with Limitless. I met him and had a chat with him at breakfast, and he started talking about this coaching that he does. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I like the sound of that. And then on the plane on the way back, I was thinking, something's nudging me to just message this guy, David. So I got back, messaged David. I was like, look, David, I'd love to have a chat. And David, very kindly, very kind man, I said, look, come meet me Friday morning, this place in Dubai. So I went along and met him. Next thing I know, I'm on the APC, which are 2B APC, our accredited performance coach, which you've done as well, Rich. And actually now I support Pete in delivering that to get my coach training accreditation. And then once I had that, I started delivering, sort of building my one-to-one coaching business alongside my role in this big four company, still an accountant by trade. And that was growing. And then Mick, who had been a mentor of mine since the APC, very kindly would give up his time to speak to me when he was in London, and we had some conversations, and he supported me. And then sort of fast forward, I joined 2B Limitless, and here we are today. So I'm now mentioned executive coach and specialize in what I call sustainable high performance, which is what we're here to have this conversation about today.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know that you. I always thought you was a London-based lad for work-wise, and obviously you're from this area, but I thought that's where PwC stuff was. So it's interesting. Thanks for sharing. Great journey, and probably a lot of learning. I feel like sometimes the best way to learn is from your experiences, and sometimes some of the things you do wrong before you do them right. As you mentioned, the sustainable high performance and specializing in this. What's the question I want to ask here? What does sustainable high performance mean to you?
Okay. So sustainable high performance is about elevating our performance, but sustaining it over the long term. Because what I observed in myself and in the people I was working around. I said, work with some incredible people. And this is something I see still to this day in the work that we do in corporate companies across the world, that there's so many incredibly driven, ambitious, talented people who are pushing way too hard and can't sustain it. So sustainable high performance is all about supporting people to, yes, work hard, but to be able to sustain our success. And it's coaching people to develop the awareness and the tools, and then the application of the tools to be able to sustain those energy levels, that performance over the long arc of our careers.
Nice, yeah. That longevity piece is super important. I think when we get into that, I think when I see people who are in these high stress roles who don't have that ability to create that sustainable high performance, whether you call that balance or being able to rest and be able to switch off, however you call that, the impact maybe isn't seen straight away. The impact gets seen when you're over 50, over 60, when health risks begin to happen and all that stuff begins to happen. I think it becomes quite hard to think about the future stuff when you're talking about this, and understanding what you do now impacts that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as you said, often it takes quite sort of big moments. Something that comes to mind, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, it's the story of Ariana Huffington. Where she, in building the Huffington Post, one morning she woke up, collapsed in a pool of blood in her bathroom in Los Angeles. And that was the moment that kind of shook her, because she built the Huffington Post into an incredibly successful organization. But at what cost? She sort of neglected her health, her well-being, wasn't sleeping, wasn't looking after herself. Yes, she didn't achieve incredible success, but there she was on her bathroom floor. And that was the moment where she was like, I've got to change something here. And then she did. And often it can take moments like that, whether it's kind of a doctor scare, whether it's a sudden realization of the finitude of our life, whatever it might be. Often it takes people to have those moments to realize, okay, like, I need to change something here. But as you shared, if we can support people to have that moment of realization earlier in their life, not only will they achieve more success because they'll have a more sustainable approach that can actually last over the long term, but they're also going to enjoy the journey so much more. It's a win-win.
100, yeah, completely agree with you. And I've seen in my position as founder of this, as a personal trainer, I would see that a lot. I would see people come to me after they've had a health risk or a health scare, and potentially I think that I see this quite a lot in the mental health space as well, right? When people are oblivious to mental health until they experience it, and however that means, whether that's through, pretty similar to me, how when I lost a friend to suicide, or if they've had a mental health breakdown or go through burnout, then they go, actually, I need to change my life and change the way I've lived my life, which is potentially not the way to be doing this, right? We want to be proactive in the way we look after it. But not only does that impact what happens then, it also impacts the positive now as well, which I think people need to see the impact of as well. Yeah,
exactly. And well, sorry to hear that, Rich, about your friend. Sorry to hear that, mate. But as you're saying, and she's something me and Ian were delivering a sustainable high performance workshop last week. Something we're talking about is this emotional contagion, where sort of emotions and feelings and behaviors ripple through a group. So, for example, if you as a leader are feeling tired, stressed, time poor, that is going to have a negative impact on the team around you, who are going to feel that stress and that pressure from you. So not only does it impact you, it also impacts your teams at work, and their performance is going to suffer if you pass that on to them. And in the same way, your loved ones at home, whether it's your wife, your husband, partner, kids, if you're feeling tired and stressed the whole time, you're getting home from work and you can't switch off, and you're physically with them but not mentally present, it's going to have a negative impact on them around you. So it's not just us. It's important to think about. It's also important to think about what the impact of us having an unsustainable approach to our work is having on those around us, whether that's teams at work or our family at home. Yeah, that's so true. Speaking to a lady a few years back,
And I guess this is the side of one of the impacts I potentially ignored, right? Like of that high performer who doesn't balance or create that sustainable piece of all of this. That it's not just the physical response to the way that you deal with that; it's potentially the relationships around that. So the divorces that happen, the impact of not being around your friends, all that kind of stuff also gets impacted more so. And I was just very much physical. This happens, but actually there's also all these other bits which I think people don't maybe collaborate with the way that person's been working, or with the way that that person's created their work way as well. So I know you have a framework for sustainable high performance. I would love for you to share that for the audience. And remember, audience, if you are listening, you have any questions, please chuck them in, or have any insights, please add them to the comments and we can share those. Thank you. And hello to everybody here as well. Dave, thanks for joining. But yeah, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So I'll share a bit of an overview of the framework to give some context, and then we can see where we want to dive into some more detail. So the framework that I developed has 4 key pillars. So it's challenge, energy, focus, and joy. And underneath those pillars is the foundation of rituals and relationships. So just to give a one-liner on each of those before we choose where we want to sort of dive into. So challenge is all about developing a healthy relationship with stress and challenge. Energy is about being intentional and strategic around our energy management. And then focus is 2 parts to this. There's focus at the macro level, focus on what's important in life. What's your vision? What are your goals? Where are you going? In the team context, when we're doing sustainable performance for teams, okay, what are the goals for this quarter? What are the KPIs? What's our focus going to be as a collective? And then there's micro level focus. And this is just the day-to-day focus, the ability to focus on the piece of work in front of you or the person in front of you. Something that's becoming incredibly challenging. And then the final pillar is joy. And here we talk about bringing joy to the work that we do and balancing the pursuit of high performance with joy. And then the rituals and relationships. So we in To Be Limitless, we do a lot of coaching around rituals, and you're obviously very familiar, Rich, but just to share a bit of context for those who might not be. So rituals are very similar to habits, but if habits are, say, brushing your teeth, something I hope everyone does twice a day for 2 minutes, that is automatic. We don't have to think about it. We just do it. Rituals are much more intentional. So these are the daily behaviors that we do that are intentional and have a real purpose behind them. It can be small things like meditating in the morning, reading, journaling, exercise, rituals around sleep, rituals around focus, could be collective rituals at work, all encapsulated within rituals, but seeing it as those daily behaviors. And then relationships. And I was really enjoying the Alison Roberts pod, Rich. I was on a bike ride listening to that recent one, and she talked about that really nicely. Just the importance of relationships with our loved ones at homes and with our colleagues at work, and how important that is for performance.
Yeah. I think also the relationships is also the relationships at work, which I think we forget, especially when it comes to the relationships between the connections and belonging to joy. Because I've not spent much time at work as an employee myself, right? Like I've been a personal trainer in a gym. And so you had colleagues, but we weren't really employees. And the reason why I enjoyed going to work most was to hang out. And I still have this when I go to do my group stuff now, is that what I enjoy most is that I'm with my friends where we can enjoy the work we do and come together and have fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I was in a very probably unique space where I was a personal trainer in a gym, but I feel like we maybe don't get that so much in a corporate office. We don't focus on enjoyment and laughter and fun. It's very much we're here to do a job. And I think maybe we forget some of that job is to enjoy the time we're there.
Yeah, exactly. And when we talk about joy, we often say that it's something we need to be intentional about. It's quite easy to say like, this person is particularly positive and joyful. That's just not me. Or it's easy to say, look, this isn't important right now. That's something that I'll focus on later in the future once I've built my career, once I've got that new car, new house, whatever it is. There's do you know Sean Aker, Rich? Have you
Yeah.
Happiness Advantage? Yeah,
I've got
I love
both
this.
these books.
Okay, he's fantastic. And then, as you well know, Rich, in that Happiness Advantage, he talks about how many people have got this the wrong way around. We often think that successful people, and this is not all people, but the successful people who are happy because they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
But what his research actually shows is it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Joy and happiness is one of the most powerful and legal performance enhancers available to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in the book, he says that life satisfaction scores are one of the greatest predictors of high performance in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are more joyful, when they experience more positive emotions, they have what they call so that flexible and abundant thinking. They're more creative. They make better decisions. People want to be around them as well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to work with a person who's sort of stressed and misery. You don't want to work with them. You want to work with the people who light you up, who walk into a room and get you energized, who bring that positive energy and joy. So you can have people around you who want to work with you, want to support you. And exactly that emotional contagion we talked about as well.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of certain people in my life where their vibe is like an energy, isn't it? A vibe you get off them, which is just joyful and fun. They're the ones you want to be with, and you can see how that creates successful outcomes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's all sorry, I was just going to share. It's so interlinked, the different pillars. Even though we have 4 pillars, obviously they interlink as well, because when we're energized, when we've slept well, when we have really strong rituals around our energy management, we're much more likely to be joyful. But when we have, and I have this, I'm sure you have it, everyone has it. When we have a bad night's sleep, it's much more difficult to be positive. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Kristen Holmes talks about our physiology impacting our psychology, and our psychology impacting our physiology. Mm-hmm. So when we're tired and we haven't slept well, our energy is low, that's going to impact how we feel mentally. It's going to impact how joyful we might be, but also how well we're going to perform mentally and how stressed we're going to be as well. Whereas when we're energized, when we're feeling at our best, we're much more likely to experience those positive emotions, much more likely to be less stressed, more likely to embrace challenge, have a better mindset.
100%. And this is where as you said, that link between energy and then joy, but then energy and being able to challenge. If you have energy, you can challenge these things. But challenge is actually something I'd love to go into a little bit more detail, because I think some of these other bits we probably want a bit more, but challenges might seem like a harder one for employees to really nail and master. So it'd be interesting to see, just explore what challenge really means to you, and how maybe you're sharing that wisdom.
Yeah, sure. So challenges, as I shared, is that developing a healthy relationship with stress and challenge. Mm-hmm. So there's a few key components within that challenge pillar that I look at with teams and individuals, and just to explore a few of those. So first, it's stress. So our relationship with stress. And if we look at it from a biological and sort of evolutionary perspective, we think about stress and the evolution of the stress response. So rewind to the world of a hunter-gatherer ancestor living in the savannah. Okay. So they're walking around and they see a potential threat in the environment. Maybe it's a rustling of leaves that could be a lion. The stress response kicks in. Once that happens, there's this series of sort of physiological and biological processes that kick in. So the heartbeat's gonna race faster. Cortisol is gonna flood into their system, the body's stress hormone. The brain's going to be on high alert to be able to pick up more danger. Oxygen's going to flow through their body so they can run faster. So all these different processes kick in to help that hunter-gatherer ancestor survive being chased by the lion. Fast forward to today, and many of us, live in an environment where there aren't lions hiding around the corner. A rustle of leaves in Battersea Park very much likely isn't going to be a lion. But our bodies are still very similar to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. And the threats that we detect today might be an angry email from a boss, It might be an upcoming deadline. So we perceive there to be all these threats in our environment. Our body's responding in the same way. But what can happen is when we see many threats in our environment and we're constantly getting the stress response kicking in, we can become what's called chronically stressed, that consistent feeling of overwhelm and pressure. And that is detrimental to performance and detrimental to our well-being for sure, because the stress response evolved to kick in short, sharp doses to help us initially survive and then to break free. Mm-hmm. So all of that to say, stress was designed to keep us safe, but not all stress is bad. Mm-hmm. Chronic stress is bad, but stress is actually a really powerful performance enhancer. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's developing a healthy relationship with that stress and challenge, because stresses and challenges how we as high performers grow. We often talk about as you talk about as well, Rich, that comfort zone, growth zone. If we just sit inside our comfort zone, don't experience any challenge, any potential stressful situations, we're not going to grow as high performers. Mm-hmm. And really key to sustainable high performance approach is the recognition that our jobs are challenging. That we work with leaders, whether it's young leaders or senior leaders or managers across businesses. Their jobs are challenging, and that's not going to change. So I'm not here to sugarcoat it and say it's all going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Your jobs are going to be challenging. They're going to stay that way. If anything, they're going to become more challenging for the young leaders we coach. Mm-hmm. How are you going to manage that challenge? And it's developing that awareness around, okay, for example, a model that we like to use was from Mo Gaudat's Unstressable, the 3 L's, but added a fourth to it. It's mm-hmm. looking at all the stresses in your environment to, okay, what are the stresses that are supporting me to grow? And what are the unnecessary stresses that I can eliminate? Mm-hmm. And that is a really key part to that challenge piece, is firstly recognizing which challenges are positive, mm-hmm. and what stress is helping us grow, and what stress is unproductive, and mm-hmm. how can we eliminate that?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's an important reflection, a really great skill to be able to sit down and do that. Harder to maybe implement. So what advice or knowledge are you sharing to help people actually make that or implement that change?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Rich. So as a coach, I refrain from advising people as a coach, but I share and the same performance framework is exactly that. It's a framework. Mm-hmm. What worked for me might not necessarily work for you, Rich. It might not necessarily work for everyone who's joined us today. But what I do have is a set of tools that have worked consistently across teams and individuals, and share those in questions. So, for example, the 4 hours model that I mentioned. So Mo Gaudat's 3 hours model added the 4. So it's first is limit. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we sit down and we say, okay, how can we limit the unproductive stresses in your life? These can be very small things that seem insignificant that add up. For example, if you are waking up too late, to mean that you're rushing through your morning, not giving yourself enough time to get to the office, and arriving in the office stressed, you're already putting yourself under pressure and stress unnecessarily. Okay, so how can you optimize your morning rituals, your morning routine, so that you don't feel stressed before you've started work? How can you limit those unnecessary stress? And then during your work day, if you're, for example, working with your phone sat next to you while you've got your emails on one screen, your work chat messages on another, and trying to focus on a piece of work on the other, if you're being stressed by the constant bombardment of emails, work chat messages, alerts popping up on your phone while you're trying to focus on that piece of work there, this is all unnecessary noise if that's what you want to focus on. Yes, obviously emails and work chat messages and people messaging us is important, but if we're trying to focus on that piece of work, how can we eliminate these stresses just for now? We'll come back to them later. How can we eliminate them for now to focus on what we want to focus on? So that's all about limiting the unproductive stresses in life. And there's numerous questions they often sort of ask around that. And then it's listen. So limit and then listen to our bodies. Recognize when we're feeling stressed and under pressure and say, okay, I'm feeling stressed now. What can I do? Instead of just pushing through as many people do, which is the default, is it taking a step away from the desk? Is it going to do some breathing exercise, whether that's box breathing, physiological sigh? What is it? Is it, for example, you've had a stressful, challenging week? Maybe it's making sure you've got time with your kids on the weekend, just switch off, unwind. It's listening to our body so that we can know when to lean into that challenge and when to rest. So that's the listen. And then, so we've got limit, listen, and then learn. Connected to that listen as well. Learn what helps us manage our stress levels in the moment, and also just reducing stress, whether that's, I mentioned, that time with the kids, or whether that's playing football or netball with your mates in the evening, whatever it might be. Learn the tools that help you manage stress and challenge. And then the final 4 that I added is lean in. Identify those opportunities to lean into the stress and challenge. Maybe that's putting your hand up at work to do a project that's going to really stretch you, that you're not sure if you can do it. Put your hand up to that. Lean into that stress. That's positive. You're going to grow from that. Or for example, it might be, if you're into exercise, doing a hard workout. Your body is going to positively adapt mentally and physically from that challenging workout. Great. Lean into it.
Yeah, I love the lean in one, and that's a great addition, right? Because I think about growth and I think about how we develop, and one of the things I always do is think, as you know, about sport and how sports people will do that. Because I think there's collaborations and the lean in to new skills. A coach maybe telling the tennis player that his grip needs to change, and actually leaning into that change will allow that person to grow, and that change and that leaning into what that coach has suggested might actually excel him to another position, or to maybe win that next game, that next tournament. So I think that's a really nice extra addition. So I want to go back to this framework, because we've explored energy slightly, we've explored the challenge. Where else we rituals a little bit, and relationships and joy. What's that last one again? Just because I've brain a blank. What's the fourth one I'm missing?
Focus, the third, and then joy, the fourth. So challenge, energy, focus, joy.
Yeah, that focus part is really interesting. I think, and working with a lot of people, one of the things, I don't know whether you notice this, is actually probably one of their biggest challenges. You ask people what they're trying to achieve, where they're going, what does success look like when what they're doing. Probably the one which for a lot of people can't really put a finger on.
Yeah, it's
when you talk about focus, what does it mean?
Yeah, so focus. Well, I'll start with the macro level focus, and here we have with To Be Limitless, something that Mick's created and crafted and honed over years and years. He used with his leaders across the world, and we now use with our next generation leaders on our high performance retreats in Thailand that we do. Something called the accountability document, and it's a really powerful tool that Mick has developed and that Jack and I have sculpted and molded for our next generation leaders. And within the accountability document, we have sort of fulfillment areas. So these are the key areas of your life. One might be career, one might be relationships, one might be health. 5 fulfillment areas. We say to our leaders, let you choose what those are for you. What are the 5 important fulfillment areas for you in your life? And then we take a step back and we say, okay, I want you to zoom into the future. So some year beyond, if we're in 2025 now, say beyond 2026, it might be 2030, it might be 2035, 2040. I want you to zoom into the future. Tell me what the vision is for you within this fulfillment area. So say if it's your career, we're in 2030, where do you want to be by then? What do you want to have achieved? Or with your health, where do you want to be in 2030? Your relationships, finances, whatever it is. Zoom into the future, 2030 or whatever it is, set the vision. Okay, then once you've got the vision, you've got that sort of macro level focus. Okay, and then from there, it cascades down. In the accountability document, we have the starting with the vision, and then the goals, or kind of the what must be truths for 2025. If that's your vision, what are your goals for this year? What must be true for this year in order to move closer to that vision? And then write down to the tactical actions, which might be rituals, those daily, weekly, monthly behaviors that you can control. And that is the more day-to-day element coming to the more micro element, because we've got the long-term vision and we've got the goals, but what are the behaviors that you can control that will move you towards achieving that goal and that vision? So that's where we have the kind of macro coming into the micro. And this time we do with our, like I said, our leaders in Thailand, and we sort of developed our community in our 2B UK community, which obviously you're one of our core members, Rich. And we've got our community event tomorrow evening, actually. And often we'll dive into our accountability documents. And we'll be looking at that focus. Okay, what must be true for this year? How are you getting on with those goals and that vision? Then there's maybe we can get onto this separately, then the more kind of micro level, how do I improve my ability to focus day to day?
Yeah, because I'm creating my own kind of framework around performance, and that micro level is an area which, to put your finger on it, because it's so unique, and I think it's such an open concept to, for me, it's like people's processes. When it comes to the micro level, once you've got the vision, once you've got the small goals in place, what is it that allows us to perform? What is it that we need to have in? And when I share about this, it's about organization. If I'm not organized, I'm not planned, and don't have these little bits in place, then my performance doesn't happen. I don't reach those basically little steps. So for me, it's about organization. Is that the kind of thing that you refer to, or have you got other sections or elements to it?
Yeah, for sure. That's a key element of it. Some work that I love and that someone who inspires me a lot is Cal Newport. I'm sure you've heard of him, Rich, and I'm sure some of the listeners have heard of him as well. Cal Newport, and he talks about this pseudo productivity and slow productivity. And so pseudo productivity he defines as the use of visible activity as a proxy for useful effort, which is essentially a fancy way of saying defining productivity in terms of activity or busyness. So what does this look like? Okay, so it's slamming our diary full of catch-up meetings with our team just to kind of look and appear busy, maybe for ourselves, but also for those around us. It's constantly being available in our work chat messages. It's constantly being available on email. And not to say these aren't important, we'll get onto that in a second, but it is defining productivity by activity as opposed to actually creating value, as opposed to value creation. And so if that's pseudo productivity, something that many people are caught up in today, are caught up in unnecessary meetings and spending too much time in their inbox, too much time in their work chat messages. Obviously important to stay connected with your teams. You can absolutely do that. But it is recognizing, okay, is this actual productivity? Am I actually being useful here? Or am I just looking busy? So Cal Newport shares that. And I love that pseudo productivity. So then what's the alternative? And what Cal Newport presents is this concept called slow productivity, where he has 3 core principles behind slow productivity. And the first is do fewer things. So many of us try to do way too many things. We take on too many projects at work. We try to do too many things in our personal life. And we become overwhelmed. We become stressed. And we completely, and I was listening again to Faris on your recent podcast talking about that FQ, the kind of focus. And he was talking about teams diluting focus. And I love that. Because that is really, when we take on way too much, we're completely diluting our focus. So the first is do fewer things. Identify what your key priorities are. And this is where having that vision and your goal is really important. Okay, what's actually really important right now? What should I be focusing on? And what is just not important? What can I strip back? So 1, do fewer things. 2 is obsess over quality. When we're caught up in pseudo productivity, And we're trying to do so many things. We're trying to multitask and not channeling our focus on one piece of work at a time. We cannot perform at our best. We don't create our best work. If, for example, in the office, you're trying to draft a report for a client while trying to do all these other things at the same time, the quality of that report is going to be dramatically diminished than if you were, and it's going to take you way longer, than if you were just to focus on that one piece of work. And you're able to really obsess over quality and create genuine value, whatever that looks like for you in your role. So that's obsessing over quality, which can only happen when you do fewer things. And then the third is work at a natural pace. And it's all interlinked. When we take on too many things, we just try to work at an unnatural pace that is unsustainable and just not conducive to high performance or well-being. So those are a few other key pieces that I love to sort of share with clients, and again have tools around that and questions around that. Say, okay, look, what's important to you right now, and what is just noise? How can you eliminate that noise to stay focused on the key priorities? What are the unnecessary meetings in your diary? Where are you getting caught up in pseudo productivity? How can you delegate more? What can you remove from your diary? All these small behaviors that really add up to increase focus.
100%. Do you know what's really resonating and just shouting at me was at our last To Be Limitless catch up, sitting there with Austin, the main man himself, and he goes to me, I think there's no Latin plural for the word priority. I think that's it, is the Latin. I'm not great at remembering exact words, but there is no plural or exact plural for priority. And actually being able to focus on one thing at a time sometimes is way more important than focusing on multiple.
Yeah.
Which just shouts at me at this kind of slow productivity is what you're sharing now, right?
Yeah.
Focus. What's the biggest and most important thing that you can do for this? And like one of my highest performers in my circle will tell me sometimes the main thing that he deals with to manage his stress is sometimes, as you said, leaning into the stress and doing the work to get rid of that stress.
Yeah, it's interesting, and just picking up on the first you mentioned there, Rich. It's as we support teams, in particular around sustainable high performance, and we look at that focus, and as you shared there, that sort of priority. What is the key priority for us as a team, like this quarter or this year? Like, what is genuinely important? And as you shared there, often we can have so much going on that we can't sort of look through and really dive into anything and create incredible value. And often kind of the beauty or the irony is when we have a few things to focus on at a time, we are going to achieve a lot more over the course of a year, of a lifetime, than if we aim to do too many things at once and aren't able to progress anything.
Yeah. Get overwhelmed by the amount of stuff on our plate, not going to manage that well. I've been reading the comments, and that's one of the thoughts just drag us across to mix. Added a bit to Rituals, talking about strength-based behaviours, practice on purpose and positioned enhanced engagement. Let me see if I can share this here so you can see it as well. Positioned enhanced engagement, performance and joy. And they're quoting To Be Limitless. Yeah, I think that's really great. Focus on that strength-based behaviours and practice on purpose. And another one here, talking about the fight or flight. If you're not just sitting here, actually attacks the problem-solving part of the brain and allows us to learn, deal with it better. And then also tends to lead to this killer loop where we get stuck if we don't.
I might just add to, I love this share from Mick and talk about there the stress hormone cortisol. One way of looking at it that I heard that I love is seeing cortisol as like nitrous oxide in a sports car. And so a nitro booster in a sports car is designed to improve and maximize power output in short, sharp doses. So you inject the nitrous oxide in the system, boom, the car is moving faster and further in short, sharp doses. But if you continue to inject the nitrous oxide into the engine for too long, the engine's going to overheat and the whole thing's going to blow up and break down.
I love that example. Such a good example.
It's so nice because cortisol works in a very similar way.
Yeah.
In short, sharp doses, cortisol can improve our performance. Say we've got a big pitch with a client coming up. The cortisol in our body and the heightened focus we have is going to improve our performance. If it doesn't become overwhelming, it's going to improve our performance in the short term. But if we continue to have that cortisol injected and pumped into our system, if we continue to load ourselves with pressure and stress and not take the time to rest, then the body, the system's going to break down.
I'm 100% stealing that example. Sorry.
I stole it from someone else. So
yeah, 100%. And then D's obviously just chucked in here as well. Slow productivity equals mindful productivity, closing down the tabs and increasing the process speed in human and computer. Love that addition as well. Thank you for sharing, D. Look, we're approaching the end of this conversation. And we both work with leadership, right? We both work in that kind of exec level leader group, looking at kind of how they perform. But they also hold this really important role in how they support others and show up for others and lead. What I really want to know is, like, how then do we use this knowledge as a leader, and what's the most important parts for them? Not like for themselves, because they are a human being. We're all human beings, and understanding that framework for ourselves is important. But actually, how do we do that for others as a leader?
For a leader, sure. So, taking an example, looking at each of the pillars. So, say if I'm working with a leader, whether that's one of our next generation leaders or whether that is a senior leader, we work with both. Looking at it through the lens of each of those pillars, it's okay. Pillar one, challenge. Maybe it's that 4 hours model. Okay, how can you eliminate the unproductive stresses in your life? And what are those challenges, the positive stress you as a leader are going to lean into? And what's the noise that you as a leader need to eliminate so that you can lean into those positive big challenges? And then it's looking at energy. As a leader, what are your rituals that you have around your energy management? How are you intentional and strategic around it? And again, it comes to small behaviors. I love the Robin Sharma quote, which is small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, leads to stunning results. So it's those small, daily, seemingly insignificant behaviors that really drive the change. So around energy management, it's just your sleep. What rituals do you have around your sleep, around your nutrition, around your movement, around your morning rituals? How do you start your day? What are these energy management rituals? Yeah. Sorry, Rich. No.
I was just going to say, I think, obviously, I think understanding that as a human being, I think we shared that. It'd be interesting to see how they're supporting others do that. So as a role as a manager, what's their role as a manager, encouraging or creating that as a team? Because I think that this framework works really well as a team and as over a multiple group of people as well. And the leader is in charge of that, or in charge of creating that, or one of many, I guess, because I think every person in the team also has a responsibility here, but the leader is the leader for a reason. How are they encouraging and supporting others to create this framework throughout the team, not just themselves?
Okay, got it.
Sorry, I'll try rephrasing the initial question.
Thank you, Rich, for the clarification there. Thank you. Okay, so within the team context, and like you say, we have those 4 pillars to sort of ground ourselves in. And for example, if we were to take the focus pillar, as we shared before, okay, as a team, I'm a leader of this team, like what's our focus, macro level focus? What's our real focus for this quarter, this year? How can we get the team really aligned on that? Yeah. And then sort of micro level, okay, how can I improve my team's ability to focus day to day? Perhaps as a leader, it's that, okay, do I need to be checking in so often? How is that distracting them? Is that supporting them?
Mhm.
And supporting them on that macro and micro level around the focus, and then the challenge as well, creating an environment where our team can embrace that challenge. And then
I think with that focus, to jump in quickly, I think Pat, I know this will really resonate well with you as well, and the 2B Limitless model is when you have that focus and that priority for the team for the quarter, then once you've created that priority as a team, you go, okay, so now whose strengths play to what to get to that priority? How do we lean into everybody's own unique strengths or your own unique personalities to make sure that they're all fitting the gaps to achieve this priority? And I think that I know with Mick being on the call and the other guys from 2B Limitless just fits into high performance as well, playing to our strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And strengths is, well, as we say, we are ruthless around our focus on what is great with people. We as 2B Limitless company are strengths based, and so we do our 2B Unleash Your Strengths. We coach around strengths, and we're all Gallup certified, myself included, Gallup certified strengths coaches. Within the context of sustainable high performance, strengths is the overarching philosophy and the lens through which myself and our other coaches who deliver our sustainable high performance programs, it's the lens through which we view it. So, for example, Rich, the example you shared there, within the context of a team, having that strengths lens, for those who aren't familiar with strengths, it's all about, okay, what are the individuals in my team good at? What are we already good at? Okay, let's not try and fix people's weaknesses. Let's focus and identify what people are already great at and support them to do more of that within the team. And that deficit model of development, which still is very prominent in many businesses around the world, is, okay, you come to your year-end review. Okay, what are my weaknesses? How do I fix them? Here's what you need to do. You're like, no. All the research shows, if you want to elevate your performance even more, don't try and fix your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths. Don't let your weaknesses get in the way of your success. Mitigate them, but focus on your strengths. So that's that sort of paradigm, that strengths-based abundance, positive psychology paradigm that we use is absolutely within the sustainable high performance framework. And like you said, around that focus. Okay, who in the team is great at what tasks are important for us to achieve our collective goal, our collective focus? How can we enable and support each of our team members to focus on what they're already great at?
Yeah, 100%. Pat, we're coming up to the end. I think you shared a load of knowledge, and I know there's probably a bit more to share on this leadership bit, but I've got a call in a couple of minutes, so I'm going to begin to pull this in to finish off and round off. I always finish the podcast with this question: what are your top 3 take-home bits of advice for anybody listening here about sustainable high performance?
My top 3 suggestions, and again, I caution around giving advice because as a coach, I never advise, but perhaps some observations I've seen. 3 powerful tools and simple tools. One specific to energy management is morning sunlight, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, perhaps in the UK. We don't get morning sunlight into our eyes and into our system. But that, Andrew Huberman says, that is the one most powerful thing we can do each day to improve our physiology and psychology. So morning sunlight, specifically between that sort of 5 to 20 minutes, within half an hour to an hour of waking up, that clicks in motion your body clock. That is so powerful. And a second suggestion would be to step back and to go through that process that we share, to step back and think, okay, what is my vision? Where am I going? So many of us are caught on the treadmill and we only realize too late that we've been going in the wrong direction. So suggestion 2 is just wherever you are in life right now, step back and think about, okay, where do I want to go? What do I need to change to get there? And suggestion number 3 slow down. Something I find incredibly challenging, and I've learned, but slow down. So many of us try to push too hard, and that's detrimental to our performance and our well-being. So it's slowing down, and specifically, okay, what are your rituals that help you slow down? Because when we intentionally take time to slow down, over the long term, we are going to go much further and farther than if we're constantly trying to rush.
Love that. 3 bits of fantastic suggestions rather than bits of advice, but covered in basically advice, but it's good. I love it. Don't worry, I won't judge you for it. Pat, I appreciate you sharing your time with me and on my podcast to share this. I hope you really enjoyed it. I have a lot of learning in different bits, in different ways of looking at sustainable high performance as well, which I think is really insightful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rich, and really appreciate everyone who's joined us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out. So happy you joined us, and loved all the shares as well. And yes, and again, a big thank you as well to you, Rich. I've been following you and supporting you for a long time. On my bike rides, I love to listen to your podcasts, and to be here today to have a chat with you. I've loved it. So thank you, Rich.
Yeah, mate, it's my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you everybody else who has joined and added some comments and some insights. Really appreciate it. We have got another podcast next week before I go away for a few weeks with an ex-GB athlete who's got Commonwealth and European Championship medals. And that will be really interesting because we're going to look at performance from the elite athlete standpoint and how then he's used that information and that knowledge into the workplace. So it's going to be a really great conversation. So if you want to come and join that, connect with me, follow me, and you'll see those kind of pop up. But thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all your time. And Pat, thank you again. I appreciate your time. I look forward to what's to come for both of us this next year.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Rich. And thank you very much, everyone.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay where you are, Pat.
Yeah.